Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes in life, a woman finds herself walking alone. It's not because she prefers it, but because those around her often don't reflect the depth of her spirit. As you move through life, you'll notice that many people keep others close just to escape the silence or to avoid feeling lonely. But a woman who decides to walk her own path is someone who knows the strength she carries inside. There's a unique kind of power in choosing solitude, especially for a woman. Independence and self-reliance don't appear suddenly. They're built through life's challenges, through trials, and often through moments of being alone. A woman who stands firm without needing constant validation from a group of friends isn't merely surviving, she's living in her full potential. She knows her strength isn't tied to the people around her, it lives inside her. In a world that constantly promotes the idea of being surrounded by others, it's easy to overlook the strength that lies in being independent. Society might tell you that you need a tribe or a group of people to lean on, but the truth is, not everyone is meant to blend in with the crowd. A woman who chooses to be independent has discovered how to trust herself because deep down, she understands that she's the one who's always there for herself. This kind of inner power isn't about rejecting love or companionship. It's about realizing that while relationships matter, they do not define her. She doesn't need others to feel valuable or respected. Her value comes from how she sees herself, from what she knows she's worth. Every time life throws obstacles her way, she doesn't immediately look outward for answers. She turns within. She listens to her instincts, relies on her wisdom, and leans on what life has taught her. That kind of strength is what separates her from those who depend too much on others to feel secure. A self-reliant woman becomes unmovable. She doesn't break down when someone exits her life, and she doesn't collapse under pressure. Instead, she draws from a deep well of inner courage, a strength she's built over time through every high and low. She's realized that the one person she can fully depend on is herself, and that realization is powerful. This isn't just about being emotionally strong, it's about walking through life without needing to be constantly reassured. She takes ownership of her choices, knowing her life is hers to create. Her independence means she's brave enough to stand firm in what she believes, in what matters to her, even when others might not agree. It's easy to go along with the crowd, to do what everyone else is doing, but a woman who's truly independent isn't interested in what's easy, she wants what's true to her. That kind of independence takes real awareness and self-confidence, something that not everyone reaches because many are too busy trying to please others. A woman who can stand alone has mastered the art of quieting the noise around her. She listens to her heart, pays attention to her needs, and makes choices that honor her truth. Her independence is more than just a way to get by. It's her source of freedom. A woman with this depth of strength knows she can face anything. She doesn't wait for someone else to lead her. She leads herself, builds her way, and makes her own mark in the world. This kind of inner resilience is rare, and it's the reason she shines even when she walks alone. Self-reliance plays a huge role in this journey, not just when it comes to making decisions, but in all areas of life. A self-sufficient woman learns how to take care of herself emotionally, mentally, and physically. She's not sitting around waiting for someone to come fix her life or make her happy. She knows that it's her responsibility to care for her well-being, her future, and her peace. That's where her power comes from. She's not relying on anyone else to carry her. That doesn't mean she never asks for help or never lets people in. It means that when she does, it's her choice. She doesn't depend on others to feel secure or complete. She's built a foundation that she can stand on alone, and that's something truly special. Her independence doesn't push people away. In fact, it makes her relationships stronger. She doesn't bring people into her life because she's desperate or lonely. She chooses them because she values them. She doesn't look for someone to complete her. She's already whole. This brings a kind of balance and respect into her connections that many people never get to feel. Being independent gives her freedom. The freedom to live by her own values, follow her own voice, and go her own direction. A truly self-reliant woman doesn't fear walking alone because she knows that no matter where she is, she's enough. She carries everything she needs within her, not just to survive, but to flourish. In this world, we often get caught up in the idea that being surrounded by many people means we're doing well. But a woman who chooses not to be in a big social circle sees something deeper. She understands that what truly matters in relationships is not the number of people, but the honesty, the meaning, and the depth of the bonds she keeps. Some chase popularity, always looking to expand their social circle because they think it brings them value. They believe that being invited everywhere and having tons of friends makes them worthy. But this way of thinking only leads to shallow connections that come and go. They might fill the gap for a moment, but they don't bring the deep support and comfort that real friendship gives. A woman who values deep connection sees things differently. She knows her time, energy, and space are valuable. Not everyone deserves access to them. Real friendship isn't about being surrounded by many. It's about those few people who truly understand you, who are there when life gets hard, and who inspire you to keep growing. She doesn't waste time on small talk or surface level relationships. She wants truth. She wants real conversations and genuine understanding. She looks for people who appreciate her for who she truly is, not just what she can offer them. Living this way takes a different kind of strength. It's easy to fill your schedule with people just to avoid feeling lonely. But it takes wisdom to know that real connection can't be rushed or faked. A woman who understands this would rather have a few meaningful friendships than a room full of strangers who barely know her. She's not focused on appearances. She wants substance. Choosing meaningful relationships also means knowing when it's time to let go. Sometimes people come into your life for a season, and then it's time to part ways. She accepts that not every relationship is meant to last forever, and she doesn't hold on just to avoid feeling alone. Even when letting go is hard, especially after investing time, care, and memories, she's brave enough to release what no longer feels right. Holding on to toxic, draining, or one-sided relationships only slows her down. She knows it's better to walk alone than to stay connected to people who don't truly care for her. Protecting her peace, her energy, and her well-being is more important than keeping up appearances. This mindset shapes how she approaches new relationships too. She's not quick to welcome just anyone into her life. She's thoughtful. She takes her time to understand who someone is, what their intentions are, and whether they align with her values. She doesn't need someone to be perfect, but they must be real. If something feels off or forced, she won't hesitate to step away. She knows that honesty can't be faked, and she's willing to wait for the right people rather than rush into something that doesn't feel genuine. By choosing quality over quantity, she frees herself from society's pressure to fit in. Society often says that success means being socially active, going to every event, and being constantly surrounded by people. But a woman who knows the worth of true connection doesn't chase that kind of approval. She understands that validation from others is hollow when it's not grounded in truth. She doesn't need a crowd to feel confident. She carries that confidence with her wherever she goes. She seems more focused on building real connections that genuinely add meaning to her life. In the quiet times when she's alone with her own thoughts, she doesn't feel lonely. That's because the few relationships she does have are deep, rewarding, and real. These are the people she can rely on when life gets hard. The ones who won't leave her side no matter what. She doesn't need a big group of friends to feel safe because the bonds she shares are already strong and enough. This mindset helps her stay fully present with those in her life. When you're spread too thin trying to keep up with many shallow friendships, it becomes tough to give your full attention to anyone. But when a woman chooses depth, she has the time and energy to truly care for the people who count. She can be there in a genuine way, and they are there for her too. It builds trust, respect, and real understanding. Choosing quality over quantity isn't just about friendships, it's how she chooses to live. It's about knowing that not everything that looks good is valuable. It's about picking depth instead of surface level things. A woman who knows this doesn't get caught up in the appeal of being popular or needing approval. She walks her own way, confident that her few meaningful connections are worth more than hundreds of empty ones. She understands that it's the strength of her relationships that brings richness to her life, not how many she has. Spending time alone also gives her the perfect space to grow and reflect. When a woman finds herself without friends around, she is presented with a chance that many ignore, the chance to truly understand herself better. It's not that friendships don't help you grow, but being alone gives a rare, quiet space to focus completely on her own growth, away from distractions or outside opinions. In this calm, reflection becomes a tool that sharpens how she sees her strengths and her ability to grow on her own. In a world full of noise and constant interaction, it's easy to lose track of who you really are. Many people define themselves by the roles they play: friend, daughter, partner. But what happens when those roles aren't there? That's where the magic of being alone shows up. Without outside roles to fill, she is left with just herself. This time alone becomes a space to ask meaningful questions. What do I truly want? What do I believe in? Who am I when nobody else is around? These aren't simple questions, and they demand honest answers. But when a woman is alone, she doesn't get to avoid them. She meets herself directly. Self-reflection isn't about being critical. It's about looking inward with kindness and curiosity. It means digging into her past, her wishes, her fears, and her dreams. It's about learning what drives her forward and what may be holding her back. This journey isn't always easy, but it's how she grows. Through this deep thinking, she begins to see her habits, her emotional triggers, her strengths, and her weak spots. With no friends around, she can spend time looking at herself in ways that may have been overlooked before. There's no need to always be on for others. There's no one pushing their thoughts or opinions on her. In this quiet, she can finally hear her own voice. And that voice has plenty to say. When she listens closely, she sees that growth doesn't come from one big moment. It's an ongoing path. Every lesson, every hard time, and even every mistake offers her a way to grow. Her time alone becomes the perfect ground for that personal development. Without friends around shaping her ideas, she starts forming her own thoughts, clear and honest, free from the need to please others. This new clarity of mind gives her strength. She starts to look at the world with her own eyes, not through what others think. Her time of reflection also allows her to face any past hurts she's been avoiding. Sometimes people use friendships to avoid dealing with emotional pain or failed goals. But when she's alone, she can't escape these things. She has to face them. And in doing so, she starts to heal. She begins letting go of old stories and emotional weight, making space for a better, lighter future. Another powerful part of being alone is that she begins to realize how strong she really is. Without anyone to lean on, she discovers her own ability to deal with challenges. She becomes more creative, more self-reliant, and more sure of herself. She sees that she doesn't need to wait for others to cheer her on or support her. That strength is already inside her. And once she knows she can trust herself, nothing can stop her. But reflecting isn't only about fixing what's broken. It's also about seeing and honoring how far she's come. In the stillness of being alone, she can look back and feel proud. She can notice her growth, her courage, and everything that makes her unique. She doesn't need someone else to tell her she's doing great. She knows it within herself. This personal pride builds her self-esteem and reminds her she is already enough, just as she is. This journey also gives her a clearer view of what she wants ahead. She can now set goals that truly match her values, not someone else's plan. She starts thinking more seriously about what kind of life she wants to create, the kind of work she wants to do, and the relationships she wants to build. With no friends around to push her toward a certain lifestyle, she's free to make choices that fit her own vision. It's creating a path that's true to who she really is. A woman learns that real personal growth doesn't only happen in groups or social situations. In fact, some of her deepest growth happens when she's on her own. That's when she can think deeply, rethink her direction, and rebuild from the inside out. This growth doesn't have to be loud or sudden. It can be soft, slow, and steady. It's not about making huge changes all at once. It's about slowly becoming more of who she really is, taking time to care for herself and grow in a way that matters to her. Being alone becomes a blessing. It gives her space for healing, growth, and deeper understanding, something she could never find in all the noise outside. A woman with no friends isn't missing connection. She has the strongest one possible, the one she has with herself. One of the strongest truths a woman can embrace is that she doesn't have to live by society's rules to be happy or complete. When she chooses a path without a large group of friends, she's saying no to the idea that her value comes from how many people she knows or how often she's seen in crowds. Society often tells people that being surrounded by others is the way to success and happiness. It links social worth with popularity. But a woman who chooses to walk alone has figured out that her true worth doesn't come from that. It comes from her mind, her heart, and her character, not from how many names are in her phone. Living this way, staying true to herself, takes strength. Society always seems to be shouting that to be successful, joyful, or whole, you must follow a set formula. Be social, join groups, build networks. But a woman who sees past that knows those are surface level standards. She understands that real value is quiet and personal. It comes from within, not from the spotlight. She knows conformity is a trap. It's tempting to do what others expect just to feel accepted. But she's done with that. Society often tries to tell women how to behave, who to connect with, and what type of life to live. But she's no longer letting herself be shaped by those messages. Her time alone has helped her step outside that mold. She's not acting a part anymore. She's living her own story, by her own rules. Instead of following a script written by others, she's now creating her own, choosing her direction and living by her own values. This choice to live honestly usually comes after a time of deep thinking and personal growth. A woman who has spent time alone and truly discovered who she is understands how important it is to be genuine. She knows that trying to fit into society's expectations only brings frustration, sadness, and a feeling of being disconnected from her real self. By stepping away from the crowd and accepting her uniqueness, she connects more deeply with her purpose, her passions, and what she wants from life. The freedom that comes from ignoring outside pressures is incredibly freeing. When a woman stops caring about others' opinions, she can finally concentrate on what actually matters to her. She no longer needs others' approval to feel worthy, and she doesn't have to go with the flow just to feel accepted. She trusts in her decisions, even if they lead her down a road that looks very different from what society suggests. This self-trust helps her stay strong in her choices, even when they're unpopular. Living truthfully doesn't mean she cuts off all connections or avoids people. It means she becomes careful about who she allows close to her. She surrounds herself with people who appreciate her for who she truly is, not who they wish she would be. She looks for relationships based on real understanding, honesty, and mutual respect, not just convenience or surface-level interaction. By doing this, she creates a life full of true meaning and deep connection. Even if she keeps her circles small, living this way also means accepting that her journey won't look like everyone else's. Society often pushes women to follow a certain timeline, to have a set number of friends, a certain lifestyle, or a list of accomplishments by a specific age. But a woman who says no to this pressure understands that life isn't one size fits all. She accepts that her path is her own, and she's perfectly fine with that. She's not rushing to meet someone else's goals. She's focused on her own happiness, her personal growth, and walking her own road. This change in thinking is incredibly powerful because it allows her to live honestly. She's no longer making choices based on outside demands. She's making choices that feel right to her. This kind of honest living brings peace because she's not always trying to meet impossible standards. She's not pretending to be someone else or putting on a mask. She shows up as her true self every day without apology. And that kind of realness attracts the right people and opportunities. When a woman chooses to live in a way that's true to herself, she becomes an example to others, even if she doesn't mean to. People notice her courage to live life her own way, and they feel inspired to do the same. By ignoring the pressure to fit in, she shows others that it's okay to be different. This kind of influence is powerful because it questions the usual rules and gives others the courage to live truthfully too. Living honestly means having faith in yourself. Believing that you know what's best for you, even if it doesn't match what others are doing. It means realizing that your worth isn't based on outside approval, but comes from inside. A woman who walks this path knows she doesn't need society or even friends to tell her she's valuable. She already knows her value and isn't afraid to live in a way that honors that truth. Choosing to live in a real and honest way without trying to fit into what others expect is a strong act of self-love. It shows that her peace, joy, and purpose are more important than fitting into someone else's picture of what her life should be. By choosing this lifestyle, she discovers real freedom, the freedom to be herself, to chase her dreams, and to create a life that feels whole and right for her. And that is a life worth living. One of the most powerful gifts a woman gains from being alone is the chance to build emotional strength and self-reliance. Without always having people around to lean on, she learns to handle her feelings on her own. At first, this might come from necessity. but it quickly turns into one of her strongest qualities. In a world where many people turn to others for emotional support or even to escape their inner problems, a woman who chooses solitude discovers how to depend on herself in ways that others may never learn. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to turn to them when times get hard. Whether it's asking for advice, letting out frustration, or just having someone listen. It's comforting to know someone's there. But when that support isn't available, a woman has to look within for answers, strength, and calm. This act of looking inward builds emotional strength like nothing else can. Emotional strength is the ability to recover from tough situations, to deal with life's hardships without getting overwhelmed. A woman who spends time by herself doesn't have constant outside comfort, so she learns to create that strength from inside. She becomes her own support system. This doesn't mean she hides her feelings or pretends to be fine when she's not. In fact, she faces her emotions directly. She allows herself to feel deeply, but she also learns how to handle those feelings in a way that helps her grow. Without constant social distractions, she becomes more aware of what she's really feeling. She learns to sit with uncomfortable emotions and move through sadness, anger, or fear without needing someone else to fix it for her. This kind of emotional independence is extremely powerful because it shows her that she's capable of handling her inner world on her own. This builds a kind of inner strength that can't be shaken easily. When a woman knows she can rely on herself emotionally, she's not as affected by life's highs and lows. She doesn't depend on someone else to feel safe or happy. This emotional strength helps her face challenges without falling apart. It's not that she never feels pain or goes through hard times. It's that she's learned how to move through those moments without losing herself. Gaining emotional resilience through being alone also helps her create strong boundaries. When you're always around people, it's easy to forget about your own needs in order to keep others happy. But a woman who spends time alone learns to protect her peace. She understands that she doesn't have to do everything for everyone, and she doesn't have to accept relationships that leave her drained. Solitude gives her the clarity to see what really matters and what she can release. And it also gives her the strength to hold those boundaries without feeling guilty. This emotional independence doesn't mean she avoids relationships or shuts people out. It means she approaches connections from a place of confidence and fullness, not from lack or fear. She's not looking for others to fill empty spaces in her heart. She's already done that work herself. Because of that, she can enter relationships with a healthy sense of space and balance. She values connection, but she's not desperate for it. She's comfortable in her own skin, and that comfort influences every bond she creates. Another strong part of emotional resilience is learning to face rejection and disappointment with grace. When you spend time alone and know how to handle your emotions, you don't get thrown off by every setback. If someone lets you down, if a relationship ends, or if life takes an unexpected turn, you don't break. You've already learned how to stay grounded in your own strength. You've practiced lifting yourself up without needing anyone else to do it for you. This makes you more flexible and better able to stay on course, even when life doesn't go as planned. Being independent and spending time alone also helps a woman grow a deep sense of self-worth. When you're not always chasing approval or attention, you begin to see your value more clearly. You understand that your worth isn't tied to how many friends you have, how loved you are by others, or what you've achieved by a certain age. You see that your value is something that exists inside of you and can't be taken away. A woman who learns this truth becomes unshakable, and her life begins to reflect the peace and power that comes from knowing and loving herself deeply. When you begin to step back from others, you start seeing your value in a completely new way. You come to realize that your worth isn't connected to how many friends you have, how often you get invited to gatherings, or how much praise others give you. Instead, your true value comes from inside, from your character, your honesty, and your strength to keep going during hard times. This kind of inner approval becomes far more important than any praise from outside ever could. As a woman builds emotional strength and independence, she also becomes more aware of herself. She starts to understand her emotional habits, the things that trigger her, and the areas where she's strongest. She finds out what truly makes her feel joyful, whole, and calm, and begins to shape her life around those things rather than looking for happiness in outside situations. This kind of self-awareness is deeply empowering because it gives her the ability to live with purpose and clear thinking. Emotional strength and independence are gifts that often come through spending time alone. A woman who learns to be emotionally steady on her own becomes solid and unshakable. She doesn't get moved by others' opinions. She doesn't need others to feel okay about herself. She's not afraid of being by herself. In fact, she welcomes it, seeing her alone time as a source of power and growth. She realizes that her real strength comes from within, and that no matter what challenges life brings, she has the strength inside to face them with grace and bravery. This makes her not just stronger, but more at ease with who she is and the world she lives in. When a woman walks alone, she naturally starts putting her growth and health first in ways that often get ignored when there's constant company or social chatter. In her alone time, she finds the quiet she needs to focus on what really matters to her, what feeds her spirit, and what takes her toward the life she dreams of. In this independent space, she slowly starts looking inward, making personal improvement and caring for herself the center of her everyday life. Without the distractions of other people's needs or the responsibility of keeping up social ties, she gains the freedom to ask herself the big questions. What do I really want from life? What actually brings me happiness? What do I need to improve to become the best version of me? These thoughts often get lost when someone is busy pleasing friends, handling family issues, or trying to meet what society expects. But when a woman walks alone, she gets the chance to turn inward and make her own development a top priority without all the noise of others' opinions or judgments. Growing personally in this way has many sides. It's not just about gaining new knowledge or doing well at work, even though those things matter. It's also about emotional, mental, and spiritual growth. It's about becoming more in tune with yourself, understanding what sets you off, where your strengths lie, where you fall short, and being brave enough to face those weak spots. A woman who walks alone grows into a person with strong self-understanding because she has the time and peace to think about her actions and feelings without outside distractions. She learns the real meaning of self-care, not in the shallow way of getting pampered or short-term treats, but in a deeper way that feeds her mind, body, and soul. She comes to see that caring for herself is necessary for her health and not just something to do when she makes space for habits that lift her up, whether that's through movement, quiet time, reading, writing down her thoughts, or just being out in nature. In doing these things, she builds a sense of calm inside her that becomes the steady base of her daily life. Putting self-care first also means she becomes wiser about how she uses her time. A woman who walks alone understands how valuable her time is and doesn't spend it on things or people who drain her. She starts being more mindful of how she fills her days, giving attention to what really helps her grow and stay healthy. This might include spending time on passion projects, learning something new, or doing activities that make her feel alive and whole. She no longer feels the pressure to pack her days with useless social events or duties just to seem like she belongs. Instead, she chooses things that match her values and help her grow as a person. As she keeps putting her development first, she becomes more at ease with creating boundaries. When you're alone, you can clearly see where you've been giving too much or letting people take more of your energy than they should. Being on her own helps her see when it's time to say no, when to protect her peace, and when to put her needs ahead of what others ask from her. Setting limits is a form of caring for herself too, and it helps her keep a healthy balance between her relationships and her personal health. One of the biggest changes that happens when a woman walks alone is that she begins to trust herself deeply. Without always hearing the advice or judgment of others, she learns to depend on her own thoughts and gut feelings. She starts making choices based on what feels right to her, not what others think she should do. This trust in herself gives her real strength because it lets her move through life with certainty and belief in her own power. She no longer needs constant praise or reassurance from others and becomes more connected to her own voice. As her trust in herself grows, so does her respect for herself. When a woman puts her own growth and happiness first, she begins to view herself with new eyes. She sees her true value and refuses to accept less than she deserves, whether that's in love, her work, or any part of her life. She sets higher standards for herself because she knows she can reach great things. This respect for herself becomes a strong force that helps her face hard times with pride and calmness. Besides growing and caring for herself, being alone helps a woman connect with a deeper sense of meaning. Without the pull of social expectations or other people's ideas, she has the chance to explore what truly excites her, what she feels passionate about, and what kind of mark she wants to leave behind. This sense of purpose gives her life direction and helps her keep growing even when things get hard. Living with purpose also means she stays focused on long-term dreams instead of getting lost in daily worries and distractions. She can see where she's heading and makes choices that match her long-term goals. This brings a lasting feeling of meaning because she knows every action she takes is part of her personal journey and growth. When a woman walks alone, she realizes that making herself a priority isn't selfish, it's essential. Through this path of finding herself, caring for her soul, and respecting who she is, she transforms into her strongest, truest self. She learns that looking after her own needs doesn't mean she's ignoring others. In fact, it helps her show up better in her life and in her relationships. By putting her well-being first, she becomes more grounded, more powerful, and more able to reach her dreams and live in a way that feels right for her. In the end, a woman walking alone is not a symbol of loneliness or weakness, but of strength, courage, and growth. It's in her quiet moments alone that she finds wisdom, courage, and a strong sense of who she is. She learns to follow her heart, focus on her development, and take care of herself without needing others to tell her she's enough. This journey gives her the tools to face life's trials with grace, to set healthy limits, and to live a meaningful life. She doesn't come out of this path as someone who lacks company, but as someone who feels whole and complete on her own, ready to meet life with strength, grace, and deep self-belief.